once upon a time, in a kingdom far, far away, a country king and queen were blessed with a beautiful baby girl. And throughout the land, everyone was line dancing. Until the cheering stopped, and the king saw that the phantom washing machine was approaching ever closer. He couldn't notch another crossover pop hit. Desperate, he sought the help of a certain rodent, who had seen the king and the princess's acting skills on a show time had forgotten. The rat had the princess locked away on its TV channel, wearing a series of masks to become the person it wanted her to be. She would become the voice of the rat, the perfect idol that embodies all of the best qualities to instill in future generations. And she would be the inspiration to every future pop star. She'd be a household name and finally allow the rat to take its greatest leaps into the music sphere. Yeah, right. Like that's ever gonna happen. Oh, sorry, don't mind me. I was just doing a little bit of light reading. Wait a minute. I think I forgot something. This video is brought to you by toast. Because it's a social faux pas to pour melted butter directly into your own mouth. Ah, there we go. Well, as promised, it's been delayed a few times, but it's time to take a deep dive into the career of one Destiny Hope Cyrus, commonly known to the listening public as Miley Cyrus. Now, the story of Miley Cyrus is an interesting one because it isn't just the story of one pop princess. I'd actually argue it's a story of three. The first is the princess in her youth, at the beck and call of a certain mouse, flexing her skills as an actor but also as a performer. The second is the princess wanting to strike it out on her own, still not completely free from the strings of Disney, but with enough artistic freedom that she no longer has to wear a blonde wig when she sings the songs that she wants to. And thirdly, the queen we know today, who effectively used the gifts and responsibilities given to her in her youth to carve out a distinct identity in the pop music landscape. So what we'll be doing today is going from the early days of Hannah Montana all the way up to the release of Flowers earlier this year, and trying to understand how Miley's visual style has evolved and changed in her music videos. So, let's dive right in.
Have any of your friends read the script and know that, you know, this is your final audition for this project?
Only my 3 bestest friends know.
Okay.
And yeah.
They're all
like, okay, go Miley, have fun. And the last thing my friend Amber said to me was, get me something in LA. Thanks.
Alright, so our story begins way back in 2006. Miley had just auditioned to appear in a television series called Hannah Montana. At the age of 13, she'd been hired despite being too young for the role because of her singing talent and acting capabilities. And this marks the era for our first princess, the show's titular star, Hannah Montana. Alright, so for those of you who haven't seen it, the show focuses around Miley Stewart, obviously played by Cyrus, a teenage girl who moonlights as a famous pop singer while trying to maintain her anonymity and live a normal life. Because they found that the role was so fitting for Cyrus, they ended up actually sculpting the character and the supporting cast around her, as far as giving the main character the name Miley, which had previously been a nickname only given to her by her parents. And of course, her dad is played by her dad in real life, Billy Ray Cyrus. Now, obviously because this is a show about a famous pop singer, they release music. And because they release music, there are what I hesitate to call music videos for these songs. Look, Hannah Montana videos, well, they're all the fucking same. Because they're filming a television show at the same time, the music videos seem like they're being treated as an afterthought. They're just the B-roll that's used in the show and occasionally played to plug gaps in the programming schedule on TV. Damn near every single one of Hannah Montana's music videos is just concert footage. There are some exceptions, but these exceptions come across as being in existence because Miley wasn't available to record, rather than being a deliberate artistic decision. While I normally disregard concert footage filling in as a music video, there is one thing I noticed while being forced to watch through all 20-something of these videos. They're all very tightly and cleanly edited. There must be half a dozen cameras all getting different shots of the concerts, but not just of the performers on stage, the people in the crowd are featured as well. And in almost every video, I couldn't see another camera. It's really bizarre. For these first few concerts, did they just hire 100 kids to pretend that Hannah is this household name? How many takes did they have to do to actually get enough footage to edit these together? I don't know, as someone who edits a fair bit, the amount of effort that seems to have gone into this simple concert roll is absolutely insane. But yeah, it's just this. Over, and over, and over. So from the bland monotony of 24 concert videos, we move on to the second princess of the hour. But first, some context. As Disney realized that they could actually start breaking into the world of music with their actors, Miley was poised to start releasing music free of the Hannah Montana bubble. But that doesn't necessarily mean it was all of her own music, with her making all the decisions. Because of this, I'll be referring to this era as the Miley Stewart era. These videos may technically be under her name, but this new line of songs and videos seems to be a distinct departure from the lack of artistic effort in her Hannah Montana days. And at the same time, it doesn't at all resemble the content that she would come to make later. It's during this era that we see the release of songs like The Climb, When I Look at You, and Party in the USA, where the former two were used to promote her focus on acting, and the latter became one of her most recognizable, widely acclaimed songs to date. As part of this transition, her videos became a bit of a jumbled mess while she still tries to figure out who she is, and obviously being still tied at the hip to the mouse. I think the word that best describes my interpretation of Miley's music at this time is volatile. Really high highs and really low lows. I remember videos like 7 Things, where the concept of the song seems genuinely sincere and creatively written, which is so far beyond what you would expect from a Disney starlet at the time. But then there are songs like Start All Over, which has to have one of the most infuriating hooks I can't dislodge from my brain no matter how hard I try. Fly on the Wall always manages just to get a laugh from me. I can't really say why, it's just so awkward. But then there's The Climb, and that is one of the most insipid, boring, painful music videos in her catalogue. Not the least of its offences is the choice to include movie footage in its music video, which just feels like nothing more than padding to fill out the full 4 minutes. But then we have arguably her highest high following her lowest low in this era, Party in the USA. Yeah, I've got no notes. This song earns all the acclaim it has. Undoubtedly her best and catchiest song she's ever released, The video, while not doing anything particularly spectacular, does exactly what it needs to do. It makes Miley look great, while also not distracting from the song. But this song does also mark the last major hit she has before she starts to pivot more towards the Miley Cyrus that we know now.
Welcome to the museum. Tonight we are proud to unveil Miley Cyrus.
The lead-off major single from her next studio album, Can't Be Tamed, drew controversy at the time because of how she depicted herself in the video. Now, with the benefit of the hindsight, I can scoff at those who claim this was controversial. If they thought this video was problematic, they ain't seen nothing yet. But honestly, why was this controversial? Is it because it's too provocative? I don't really see how. I mean, there's as much skin on display here as in her best music video. Is it because of the lyrical content? I don't think there's a whole lot to object to in that regard either. Is it because of the new sound? Well, she wanted to stray away from pop, and I don't think this sounds all that bad back then or even now. I think that the main reason that this was controversial was because it just wasn't what people wanted from Disney's Miley Cyrus. And honestly, I don't think that's very fair. She needs to evolve and change, and this was not a bad step or an evolution to take. But not everyone agreed, and the album only had one other single released, and only in some countries. Although the album itself didn't succeed, it did effectively establish exactly what Miley was trying to do: distance herself from the image of Hannah Montana and Miley Stewart. If she was going to get tied to the mouse, she was going to do as much as she possibly could to distance herself from it. But that was the end of the Miley Stewart era. At this time, she took a bit of a break from releasing her own music and instead decided to experiment by featuring on other artists' songs, including working with Snoop Dogg of all people. So she was still a presence, and we still understood visually what she was trying to do. But her next release, 3 years later, introduced the Miley Cyrus we know today, and it introduced it in a big way.
It's our party, we can do what we want. It's our party, we can say what we want. It's our party, we can love who we want. We can kiss who we want. We can screw who we want.
This is probably the video visually most associated with Miley Cyrus. It's the one your mind's eye remembers the most, for better or worse. We Can't Stop introduced a revolutionary new motif that permeated throughout a large amount of her work moving forward. This motif was be sexual without being traditionally sexy. You know, don't show this to your kids, but you probably also won't find this on your creepy uncle's hard drive. It was this idea that I think rubbed the most people the wrong way, because she's alienating the two biggest audiences available for a pop princess: the little girls who see her as a role model, and their creepy relatives waiting for them to turn legal. I don't think that's to say she isn't trying to be sexy. She still looks great, but with the different haircut, constantly playing with the gum in her mouth, and surrounding herself in distinctly non-sexy imagery, it seems like she's trying to introduce a new way of thinking. I think she was honestly trying to just introduce a new way of understanding beauty. Bear in mind, back in 2013, the general public's understanding of the LGBTQIA+ community was pretty pitiful. at least compared to today. Miley has identified as pansexual since 14 apparently, and has been an outspoken supporter for the community since as early as 2010. But I'm still not sure it's an anti-LGBT bias that was even really a big part of why this video was so polarizing. When you get right down to it, the song sounds miserable. It sounds desperate and sad. But the video was visually creative. Well, when I say visually creative, I mean in the sense that I don't think any other director would have considered these specific visuals before. Almost everything in this video is solely trying to play for some sort of contrast payoff. It's trying to be the furthest thing from traditional. In some cases, I actually think it's meant to be visually abrasive. The editing certainly reinforces that, establishing a weird shot for a few seconds, cutting away from it and refusing to cut back to it again. And the fact that the editing in many instances is cut to the rhythm adds this sense of urgency and anxiety to the video that I could never really quite figure out back in 2013. Also, watching her get her head stood on here causes me to nervously twitch every time. And I can't think of a single person who would like listening to the final bridge. But, as I said, because Miley does look so good, and there's so much deliberate creativity on screen, I don't think the video is meant to be ugly. I think it's just meant to be atypical. But this video would quickly be followed up with another smash hit.
If you'll pardon the pun.
I came in like a wrecking ball. I never hit so hard in love. All I wanted was to break your walls. All you ever did was wreck me.
You know this video, you've seen this one, but I think this video is an interesting progression of the sexual without being traditionally sexy motif. But I think this motif ends up hurting the impact of the song more than helping it in this case. It's certainly provocative, but rather than trying to go against tradition, this video seems to actively aspire to be just disgusting. I mean, the parts where she's calling back to Nothing Compares to You complement her powerful delivery with the lyrics, and the visuals of the wrecking ball knocking down walls with her riding it generally match with the imagery posited by the song. But obviously, the reason you remember this is because they didn't stop there. A music video like this gets as famous as it is because she licked the sledgehammer, she rolled around in the dirt and rubble, she straddled the wrecking ball while naked. This definitely ranks as one of her better songs, but just a few key decisions in the visuals let the music video down. At the same time as Wrecking Ball and We Can't Stop It dominating the charts, she's also working with some other artists, including will.i.am, Mike Will Made It, and Future of all people.
If our hearts go the wrong way, I still know you're mine.
Again, maintaining her presence while also adding some finer details to allow us to understand more about Miley Cyrus as an artist. This concludes with the release of Adore You, a video which depicts Cyrus again rebelling against her traditional image, but instead this time, she goes about it in a way contrary to her two previous videos. In short, it was simultaneously very accessible in viewability. You know, there's no head stomping, and there's no major attempts to defy established conventions of what it means to be beautiful or sexy. But, in my opinion, it's also heinously boring. This song feels like it goes on for so much longer than it actually does, and this type of video I feel I could have gotten from any artist at the time. It's technically sound, it's got a lot of interesting shots, and is filmed and edited competently. It's just not in line with what we've got from Miley Cyrus up until this point. It does demonstrate one major thing though. Miley is not only willing to depict herself as traditionally sexy and beautiful in music videos, but she's also very good at it. Technically, her next promoted single was Malibu in 2017. But that's a whole 3 years after Adore You. Obviously, she wasn't sitting around doing nothing in the interim. She'd actually released another album, Miley Cyrus and Her Dead Pets. In 2015, this was her 5th studio album, and in a very brave, potentially suicidal move for a pop artist, she made it available for free on SoundCloud. Miley wrote and produced it. It was an experimental psychedelic pop and rock album, and I don't think many people would be privy to the 3 music videos she released as part of its cycle. Okay, I need to preface this before I dig too deep into these next 3 videos. I think the move to release the album outside of her contract is very important for music as a whole, and she should be commended for making this project and releasing it in the pursuit of her own artistic freedom. With that being said, let's take a look at the first music video for Do It.
Ready? Yep.
Might need some more marijuana. Yeah, I love peace, but I don't give a fuck. I ain't no hippie. Yeah, I smoke pot. Yeah, I love peace. Do it, but I don't give a fuck. Do it. I ain't no hippie.
I find this to be incredibly difficult to watch. Like, it makes me a little bit physically ill. And I think I understand why it's done this way. My interpretation is that she's playing against the sexualization of her own image since she's been a celebrity. Maybe I'm a bit too bashful to outright describe what I think the imagery is meant to be evocative of, but yeah, I think this review is pretty spot on. I think the point is that it's meant to be deliberately difficult to watch, to make a comment against the people that want to see her in this light. Alright, let's move on to the next one. I can't keep watching this. If we skip over Lighter, which honestly is just nice to look at, but there's not really much more to it, we arrive at the final music video, BB Talk. Yeah, I'm kinda torn on this one. Again, I think it's deliberately meant to be creepy and weird because it plays into what the song is about. But just being creepy and weird deliberately doesn't generally excuse the video as a difficult watch for being creepy and weird. That said, I don't think there's anything I can suggest to fix the video. Again, it's successful in what it's trying to achieve. I guess it's just a video you see once and then probably never again. BB Talk marks the end of her experimental phase, and I can distinctly imagine RCA Records saying, okay, you've had your fun, now it's time to earn your keep. And with that, we see her next albums Younger Now and She Is Coming. The major music videos demonstrate Miley having to fall back on her skill set she demonstrated in Adore You, being able to play to a more widely accessible aesthetic, but she also appears to have earned the right from RCA to start promoting more of her LGBT identity in videos like Younger Now and Mother's Daughter. But I think one of the finer points of Miley's videography is that the depiction of the LGBT community feels so much more genuine than with other pop artists. Maybe that's because instead of just advocating for them, like some other artists, she actually is part of the community. And because of that, it doesn't once feel exploitative. Honestly, I think this particular stage of Miley's artistic development is her most universally accessible. I have a really hard time finding fault in a lot of the music videos that were released around then. Alright, what else do we have here? Oh yeah, the promo for that movie that I didn't see. For now, I'll skip over it because I think I might actually give it a full review at a later date. So that brings us to Plastic Hearts, with its lead-off single, Midnight Sky. I honestly think this is one of her best music videos. I mean, it features some of the stuff that's obviously going to win me over. It's bright and colourful, but the colour palette is carefully considered. The sets are creative and visually engaging, and the song itself is just so good. The other two videos from Plastic Hearts, being Prisoner and Angels Like You, are fine, with the more interesting of the two obviously being her collaboration with Dua Lipa. The two of them working together seems like a no-brainer, and they synergize quite well, I think. But there's not a lot for me to gravitate towards, and I grew tired of the song pretty quick. It doesn't grate on me nearly as much as her other release in 2021, a remix of Without You with the Kid Laroi.
So there I go. Oh, can't make a wife out of a hoe. Oh, I'll never find the words to say I'm sorry, but I'm scared to be alone.
I've spoken at length as to why I don't like this song, and the video's nothing special, but I will admit that her voice does seem to lend a little bit more credibility and gravitas to the lyrics. And clearly she left an impact on him, as he seems to be wearing her haircut from Prisoner even now. And that brings us up to right about now. Her most recent album, Endless Summer Vacation, has had 2 music videos released so far, both of which I could summarise in only a few words.
I can buy myself flowers, write my name in the sand.
I don't find Flowers to be particularly endearing, and the video is, again, just fine. It's not among her best, but it's not doing anything outwardly wrong. She looks great and is wearing very little, a path that's been trodden many times before in her videography, so the intent of the video is pretty clear from the outset. But comparing this to some of her early work where she did the same thing, in this case it's not meant to shock, it's meant to flaunt, which is fine. It's a video that suits the I'm Back Bitch single. The song's getting overplayed a bit too much, and I can only enjoy the creative use of the lyrical Bruno Mars interpolation for so long. This just isn't for me. Then finally we have her newest single, River. This is the sort of sleek, stylish, sexy music video that's perfectly poised to be completely forgotten by me. I mean, it's good. It's actually probably very good. Like, if I were to poll 100 people, I think a large majority of that group would say that this music video is a good music video. But honestly, it's this type of passing grade music video that leaves almost no impression on me. There's nothing for me to take away from this. Interestingly though, I noticed a lot of people commenting that she's embracing the blonde hair wholeheartedly, saying that this might be a second coming of Hannah Montana. I don't know about that one, Chief. I can't imagine Hannah Montana singing lyrics like this.
Yuck.
I'll be honest, now that I've gone through interviews and her entire videography, I've got a much stronger appreciation for her work as an artist. Like a lot of people, I had used her as an example of artists struggling to age in the spotlight maturely and appropriately. But with hindsight, I can recognize that while not every single video is an absolute winner, and I'd be happy to never see a large number of these songs again, each era certainly had its highlights, and ultimately, it culminates in an artist that comes across as down-to-earth, personable, and a lot wiser than a lot of people would probably give her credit for. While she may not fit the role model that Disney had intended for her to become, she certainly became a role model in her own right. And I'm very eager to see where she goes from here.
Talk to myself for hours. See things you
You tell Mr. Spielberg I said thanks, but no thanks.
Oversized sweatshirt and buying daddy who just said 3-time Academy Award-winning director, producer of Jaws.
That, my friends, is what you get when hillbillies have unprotected sex with hummingbirds.
If you keep doing that, I'm gonna have to call the police.
Miley gave me fog dick. Why are you dancing? Take me to the hospital.
Oh, yeah, I love